Today, UPS announced 12,000 more job cuts. It seems like every day you turn on the news, some companies laying off some percentage of their workforce. How are you guys looking at job cuts today?
Well, with growth slowing, right? It's hard for companies to outgrow the broader economy. And the whole idea of a soft landing is that you have growth coming down. Some of that's because inflation is dropping, but some of it's also just because, real growth is dropping at the same time. So as you have less growth in the economy, for companies to be able to produce the margins that they expect to produce, they're going to have to start laying off some of the less productive workforce. And we're seeing that pretty aggressively, not just at UPS, but we're seeing at many tech companies. I think Block just announced another 1,000 jobs. Wayfair recently announced a significant layoff. We've seen layoffs at Microsoft, at Amazon. Like, all the big names are laying off people, and it's because everyone's trying to achieve margins or attain margins in an environment that has slower growth, which just makes it more difficult.
Yeah, and you look at, 2 years ago, tech had a really tough year, and then last year the tech names were on fire, and the market rewarded them for every earnings report when they announced more layoffs, and rewarded them for focusing on margins and focusing on cost structure. I think the only thing about UPS that I would take note of is I think there's also a normalization going on in the economy with respect to this sort of bubble of kind of online purchasing that happened when the economy was closed because of the COVID pandemic. And there was a lot of hiring associated with that. And I'm not sure if some of this is kind of trying to right size back to kind of a more normal growth glide path. And I think you've seen that in a lot of businesses that just overhired related to the pandemic and are now trying to kind of get back on track, as well as realizing they're going to they are or will be coming under margin pressure and trying to get ahead of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of companies significantly overhired when there were few people on the job market, and they didn't let go of people that should have been let go. So we're seeing some cyclicality here, as you should see cyclicality throughout the economy. It's not a huge surprise, but I would be interested to see if the Fed's trying to engineer their way out of cyclicality in the labor market. I think that would be a bad thing for everyone. But it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't trying to reduce layoffs in one way or another.